Hi everybody. I've been asked to make part 2 of my video. Part 1 being when I first met my wife at my welcome home party after coming home from Marine Corps boot camp in 1974. After we had been married for a little while, we moved into an apartment called Ash Creek Apartments in Tigard, and we'd lived there for about 6 months maybe, and my wife, who wasn't working at the time, she was asked to be, if she was interested in becoming a manager for the apartment complex. Now she was only, at this time, she was only 18 years old. I was 19. And we had never done any of this kind of work before, and we had just been married for about 6 or 8 months or 7 months. And to take on that kind of a responsibility was pretty big, especially when we had no idea what we were doing. I was cooking at Sambo's in Tigard at the time, which is not there anymore. It was in the middle of downtown Tigard, and right on the corner. And I worked there for a while, about a year and a half. And she took this job as being the manager for Ash Creek Apartments, and we got free rent, which then was $125 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment, free telephone, free water and garbage, of course, and $350 a month for doing this job, which was considerable amount of money then. And so she took this job on and actually was very good at it. And they taught her everything that they needed her to know about keeping records and keeping track of when people were moving and coming and going, and those people that qualified for low housing income and things like that. You know, there was so much to do with this job that she didn't know before, and they taught her how to do that. And we were there for about a year and a half, and our son Brent was born October 21st, 1976. He waited until about almost midnight to kick around a little bit. We went to bed as normal, and we had just gotten to bed, and she began to complain that she was feeling a lot of pressure, and she didn't exactly know what was going on. She called her mom at midnight, told her mom that she was having pressure and she didn't know what was happening. And her mom told her to that it probably was false labor, just to go back to sleep. That if it was actually going to happen, that she would definitely know when the time was coming for her to deliver. And so we turned off the lights and went back to sleep. 2 o'clock in the morning, she wakes me up and says, something's not right here. I think I'm having a baby. And I said, are you sure? She said, well, I don't know. I've never done this before. I think so. And I said, okay, well, let's get dressed and go into the hospital. And see what they say. You know, all they can do is send us home if it's false labor or something. Well, we showed up at Emmanuel Hospital in Portland about 30 minutes later, and doctor came out and told me that she was definitely going into labor, and it was a good thing that we got there. It shouldn't be too much time, and we would have a baby. We at that time we didn't know if it was going to be a boy or a girl. I didn't want to know. I had a suspicion that it was going to be a boy because there weren't very many girls in our family. I don't remember exactly. My wife is the one that came up with the name Brent. I don't exactly remember where the name came from. Obviously, his middle name is Eugene, which is my middle name. So Brent Eugene. I don't remember where the name came from, but he is our firstborn, and he didn't want to come very easily. She was in labor for about 6 or 8 hours. I don't remember exactly. And the doctor came to me and told me that she wasn't doing very well. It was his opinion that she should deliver cesarean. And I didn't know what that was. I had never been to any of the birthing classes. I don't even remember it being an offer at that time in 1976. So I didn't know what it meant, and doctor explained it to me real quick. He said, I basically cut her open and deliver that way, and within 5 or 10 minutes you're going to have a baby. And I said, okay, sounds good to me. And doctor left, and that's what he ended up doing. At about 10:45 a.m., Brent Eugene Pekarek was born, and I actually saw him before they cleaned him up. As soon as he was delivered, the doctor brought him out, showed me, and I'll never forget my first initial thought was, oh my gosh, because he was a little cone head. His head was all pointy and everything from the birth canal. Doctor told me that was normal, that his head would eventually round out a little bit, and I said, I hope it rounds out a lot. And he said not to worry about it. So I didn't, and he hadn't been given a bath yet, so he was, not only was he a cone head, he was pretty disgusting looking. Really made me happy that I didn't go into the birthing room with everybody, because Sandra would have liked me to go into the birthing room, but I said, you know, unless you expect to pick me up off the floor, I better wait out here for you. So I did. And she had a few complications with Brent after he was born. It's been so long ago, I don't exactly remember what the complications were, but obviously, you know, having a baby cesarean, she was, I sort of do now. The cesarean section cut was become infected a little bit, and she had to take some pretty heavy duty medicine to get over that infection. And so instead of being in the hospital just 2 or 3 days, she was actually extended her stay for almost 10 or 12 days so that they could help her get over her infection. And And after about 2 weeks, I was told that they all could come home. So the time was set for me to jump in the puddle jumper and go up and pick them up from Emmanuel Hospital. And we brought Brent home. His first home was Ash Creek Apartments in Tigard, in which, being new parents, we had no idea what we were doing. Sandra's mom, Dorothy, always told her that if she needed any help, to just call and she would come down and help. But Sandra wanted to do it herself. She knew that she had to learn this stuff, so she wanted to do it herself, and she was the most picky, protective, wonderful, caring, loving mother that you would ever meet in your entire life. She said that she didn't know where all these emotions come from, but I think that they were in her right from the start. She told me a long time ago that she always knew that she wanted to be a mother, just didn't know how she would do it or how she would work out as a mother. And it turns out, that she was exquisite at being a mother. It was about, Brent was about 10 or 12 months old when we decided that the apartment job and raising a baby was too much for Sandra. And we started looking around where we wanted to move, where we wanted to live permanently, or what we thought would be permanently. And we decided, because I was raised in Newburgh, we decided that we would look around in Newburgh to see if we could find an apartment or something to live in. And we did. We found an apartment just about a block or so away from Newburgh High School. And we moved into there for a short amount of time. I think the rent was like $215 a month, and we had just come through a year and a half of not having to pay for rent, so the thought of actually paying out of our pocket $215 a month for rent was kind of scary. It was a lot of money back then, and we decided to take the apartment, and we lived there for about 6 or 8 months. Found something a little bit better, moved into it. I don't remember for sure where that was, the second apartment. We moved a lot for the first, after we moved to Newburgh, we moved a considerable amount of times in an 18-month period of time, because we were trying to find where we wanted to be. Plus, we were trying to figure out how in the world we were going to pay for this much money for rent. And we moved into a little house on 9th Street and lived there for approximately 2 years. Velma Gentry was the nice old lady that owned the house. We had a really nice little 2-bedroom house, single car garage. It was on 9th Street, just about 3 blocks away from the little grocery store there on 9th Street. And we lived there for a couple of years. That's where we moved to when Brent was a toddler. And he learned to walk while we were living there. And our rent was it was a little overwhelming at times. I think it was $235 a month for that house. It was a very nice little house, very large lot, which would be considered now two lots. And plus we had the added expenses of water and electrical and garbage. And because my wife was happy to live in Newburgh, and now she was responsible for a baby, we decided to buy our first brand new car. We went to Beaverton Honda at the time. Now this was in 1975. We went to Beaverton Honda and was talking to a salesman there. And we were newly married, just not very long. We decided to buy a new car and went to Beaverton Honda and talked to the sales guy. And he set us up with this cute little brand new Honda Civic. Sticker price on it was $19.95. That's $1,995 for a brand new car. Our payments would be $99.97 a month for 36 months. And we didn't know if we were going to be able to pay rent and afford a $100 car payment all at the same time, and pay for water and utilities and stuff on the apartment and on the little house. So, but I determined as a young man by this time I was 22 years old, that there was two types of people that I could see. People that drove brand new cars and wore them out, or people that drove worn out cars and continued to fix them all the time. And because my wife had just had a new baby, I preferred her to drive a nice car, a new car, so that I would never have to worry about it breaking down with her. And so that was the beginning of our buying a new car every 2 or 3 years. The first 5 brand new cars that we had were all Hondas. We had such absolutely good luck with the first one that in 1978, 3 years later, we went and traded off the 75 and bought a 78 Honda. And then every couple of years we'd trade that off and get a newer one. And we did this for a few years until 1986. We were driving through Tigard. Her mom and dad lived in Tigard. We'd just come from her mom and dad's house. And we were in the middle of Tigard, and I noticed across the street as we were stopped at this traffic light was the car dealership there. It was a Chevrolet dealership. And I said, hey, how about let's drive in there and see what they have. She says, no, let's not go in there, because every time you go into a car dealership, we end up with a different car, and I like this car, nothing wrong with it. I said, yeah, but it's not going to hurt us to go look. So, against her advice, we stopped and was looking around, and I decided that if we were going to buy a different car, this time I was to give up the Honda, and I wanted to buy an American car, and I wanted to buy a Chevrolet. Well, we got our financial situation okayed, because I didn't really think that we would be able to finance a new car, because the one we were trading in wasn't very old. And they come back and they said, "You're approved. Which car would you like to have?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. How about that? I wanted a Chevrolet car. How about that Chevy Nova over there, that red one?" Okay. We made a deal on it. To make a long story short, we made a deal on it. Transferred all our stuff from the Honda to the Chevrolet and took it home. Happy. We were happy. She was a little apprehensive about buying another car, but by this time I was making more money, and everything was cool. About 30 days later, I decided, because we got a brand new car from the Chevrolet dealer, they were going to give us the first 6 oil changes for free. So one day when we were in Tigard, I said, "Hey, let's swing in here and get the oil changed. We got about almost 3,000 miles on this car already. Let's get the oil changed." Okay. So I went to the service department, and the guy comes out and asked me what I wanted, and I said, "Hey, I got 6 free oil changes, and it's got almost 3,000 miles on it, so it's about time." And he said, "Okay, sounds cool." So he wrote me up and asked me what I had, and I said, "Well, I have a Chevy Nova." He said, an 87 Chevy Nova, and he said, "Oh, well, you got one of them toilettes." And I said, "What?" "No, it's a Chevy Nova." He says, "Yeah, well, we call them toilettes here." And I said, "What are you talking about? It's a Chevy Nova." He says, "Oh, I know what it says, but let me show you what I mean." He took me out and we opened the hood, and he showed me the little ID tag underneath the hood, and it says Toyota Corporation. My Chevrolet car, my Chevy Nova, was built by Toyota, and it turned out to be a Toyota Corolla with Chevrolet name on it. And so consequently, the dealership called them toilettes, short for Toyota Corolla, Chevrolet. And I said, "This can't be right. I wanted to buy an American-made car." He says, "Oh, well, you don't have to worry about that. They're assembled in America, but it is a Toyota Corolla car with Chevrolet name on it." I was never so angry at a car company in my entire life, that I had been fooled to buy a Japanese car, or I thought was a Japanese car made in America. And I thought I was buying Lauren Green, I thought I was buying an American made or American car, Chevrolet. Turns out that I was never so more fooled in my life. We had that car for 10 or 12 years. It turned out to be the most dependable. Not that there was anything wrong with any of the Hondas, but it turned out to be the most dependable car we had ever owned. And we had it, I don't remember what year. In the meantime, our daughter, our first oldest daughter, Stacy, she had learned to drive this car, and she was going to go to the store or to school or something. She was going somewhere and wanted to borrow the car, and unfortunately she got rear-ended in this car, and that was the end of the red 87 Chevrolet Toilette, because it got totaled. And it wasn't her fault, but we had to go out car hunting again. If I had listened to my wife when we were young about finances and financial things, because she was always a little bit leery on buying things on time. If I had listened to her when I was a young guy, I didn't know it at the time, but I would be so much better off financially, because she was quite the opposite of me. I was kind of a spender person. Whenever I thought I saw something a little bit better, I always thought I needed it. And she always tried to persuade me not to get into a hasty situation and buy stupid stuff that I really didn't need, that later on I might even regret. And true to fact, that happened a lot. I didn't listen to her more than I should have, and paid the price several times on unwise decisions financially. Today is August 8th. She has been gone now for 37 days. There's not a single solitary moment of the day that I don't not miss her. I think of her from the time I wake up in the morning until I say my nightly prayers. Asking God if it's time for me to go, that He won't wake me up in the morning. If He thinks that I'm safe to save, if I'm ready, I ask Him to not wake me up. As you can tell, today's Sunday. I just finished loading up another load of wood to go to Vancouver in the morning. And I woke up this morning. I cut a lot of firewood to keep myself busy through the day. But even when I'm cutting firewood, I can hear her voice in my head. Because every morning when I would go to work, she would always say, "Be careful. Think about what you're doing before you do it. Don't get hurt. And oh, by the way, you're not as young as you used to be. Don't make foolish decisions." And I would always say, I try the best I can to be safe. I'm responsible for my own safety because I work by myself, most of the time by myself. And inevitably, even though I just cut firewood, I end up getting scratches on my arm because oak wood is very sharp when it's cut. And I still hear her voice in my head. Do you have any band-aids in your lunchbox? Just in case you get hurt? And I said, yep, I got a few band-aids. Okay, well, make sure you have enough. Did you take your medicine this morning? You know you're supposed to take your medicine. The doctor's not going to be very happy with you if you don't take your medicine. And I said, I took my medicine this morning. Now I'm on my own. Even though she's not here, her voice is still in my head. Did you take your medicine this morning? Yes. You're sure? You're not fooling me? Yes, I did. Okay. Well, at least be careful. I'll see you tonight. She was always the first one to say, I love you. She was always the first one to say, I love you. I'll see you tonight. Okay. If you need anything, call me. Okay. And just be careful. Okay. I still hear her in my head. And I wish more than anything that I could walk right now into my RV and she would be sitting in her little red chair. The first thing that she would say to me when I come home from work, are you hungry? Do you want something to eat? Or do you want to wait for dinner? Sometimes I would say, no, it's late. I'll wait for dinner, or I'm not very hungry right now. I'm more tired than I am hungry. I've kind of run out of things to say. Right now my mind is going 100 different directions. So I think that we will make this the end of part 2. And as she would say, I love you. Take care of yourself. And be careful. I'll see you tonight. Have a good day, everybody.